So with all construction now paused at Walt Disney World in direct response to the COVID-19 global pandemic, along with the temporary park closures until further notice, let's now discuss what all of this might mean for the existing Disney park projects that are currently under construction. So let's dive into all of that up next. Hi there Waltoneers, I'm Jack and this is of course DSNY Newscast, and let's get straight into it for today. As on March 17th, the Orlando Business Journal reported that the Central Florida chapter of Associated Builders and Contractors had confirmed that all construction had been indefinitely postponed at Walt Disney World. Then not long after that, we also received the expected clarification that construction had also been paused on projects at Disneyland Resort, which included the Avengers Campus and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and at Disneyland Paris with the Walt Disney Studios park expansion as well. However, it's not like this construction postponement was not to be expected, as with the tightening of the CDC's social distancing guidelines on gatherings of no more than 10 people for 8 weeks, combined with the issuance of stay-at-home orders in Orange and Osceola County, you'd have thought that any construction activity would be impossible. But recently, in a letter to employees, Universal Parks CEO Tom Williams confirmed that their construction projects around the globe will all remain active and on track under protocols established by government officials, which poses an interesting question as to why Disney has decided to halt all construction activity, with the first possible reason being that they are erring on the side of caution and prioritising the health of the workers in accordance with the stricter social distancing guidelines. But more likely the real reason is relating to financial factors, as WFTV9 reported that the Buena Vista Construction Company laid off workers around the time of the closure on March 16th, and other sources state that the decision to cancel other third-party contractor work was an effort to keep as many hourly cast members on payroll through April 18th, as the occurrence of postponements and delays on projects is something that is widely expected within the construction sector. However, the big problem is that undoubtedly Disney's main competitor, Universal Studios, will continue to surge ahead during this time, which, as international theme park planning expert Frank Stanek astutely points out, that economic downturns is actually the time to reinvest in construction infrastructure, as those who move forward with their projects will capture more market share when the cycle of uncertainty ends and tourism and visitor growth does return, which is something worth thinking about, as despite Disney having many more projects in development around the world than Universal Studios, the company also has to weigh up their huge debt burden, the healthcare responsibility to their cast members, and also the long-term effects of pausing these construction projects. So realistically, continuing all construction projects most likely wouldn't be feasible, but personally, I still see a huge benefit if Disney were to continue certain projects like Tron or Guardians of the Galaxy. Now at this time, I'm not going to be diving into any details regarding the economic ramifications that COVID-19 may have on the Walt Disney Company, as at the time of this recording there are too many variables at play to discuss it with any real accuracy, so that will have to wait to a later date when we have a clearer picture of the financial situation. But what we can talk about for today are logical deductions and nuanced speculation about how all of this will affect the Disney construction projects, as we not only have historical comparisons from previous economic downturns, but we also know the current state of construction on each project through the visible construction progress thanks to the brilliant aerial photography of BioReconstruct on Twitter, whilst being coupled with permit filings that reveal the internal components that have been installed on such projects. So all of this together gives us a good understanding of where each project is within their timeline, and thus we can predict the varying levels of disruption that COVID-19 and the postponement will cause within the space. So let's begin by outlining all of the concurrent projects that have been officially announced to be coming to Walt Disney World. But to make it easier, I'm going to colour code them into 4 distinct categories, from early development to site preparation to significant progress and then nearing completion. That way we can use this as a guide to see what will most likely be completed, delayed or cancelled altogether, with this first category most likely to be relatively unaffected, as projects such as Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, the Space 220 restaurant and Disney's Harmonious Harmonious are very far along in their project timeline. As for an example, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure and the new Parisian cul-de-sac expansion to the back of the France Pavilion was expected to open sometime within June before the parks closed until further notice, with the previous official opening timeframe being summer 2020, which begins on June 20th and ends on September 22nd. So even before the parks closed, this project only had roughly around 2 months of construction before its completion. Therefore, we can create a modelled scenario based upon the CDC's 8-week recommendation, plus the fact that Disney is not accepting bookings for April and May, that any projected opening for this attraction could be as late as September 2020, but of course all of that is dependent upon the duration of the closure. But overall, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure is probably the only project where no feasible cost-cutting measures could be enacted at this point that would drastically alter the overall end product. But that isn't the case with Harmonious, as despite Epcot's new nighttime spectacular already having prefabricated and delivered the 5 massive barge units that are integral to the new lagoon show, savings could be seen by scaling back the amount of pyrotechnics included in the show, as Harmonious will heavily utilise LED panels, innovative fountain technology, and other special effects. But with reports that Disney may not host nighttime fireworks shows for a period of time to encourage further social distancing, then we may have seen the last show of Epcot Forever as well, and may have to wait even longer before Harmonious debuts, which may be as late as October 2020. But personally, I would rather see Harmonious debut even later, as long as we receive all of the original pyrotechnics that were promised. And then the last project under this category is Space 220 that is nearing completion, although it isn't actually a Disney-funded project, but instead it's third-party construction under the Patina Group. So despite this highly anticipated immersive dining experience being a mere 1 month away from opening before the park closure period, it's likely that this project will be delayed until the Patina Group can fund its completion. Then next up we come to medium-term projects with significant progress, like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot and the Tron Light Cycle Run roller coaster at the Magic Kingdom. And it's safe to say that these 2 projects will be relatively unaffected, with the main reason for this being that funds are being reallocated away from other projects to ensure the completion of these 2 rides, as these will be the big major attraction openings to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World next year, and much of the marketing push for the 50th anniversary will be centred around them. But more importantly, with massive attractions like these, most of the allocated budget will already be accounted for, as a lot of the overall capital expenditure is used within the developmental stages, the research and development and the fabrication of the ride systems, the construction of the show building, and then all the underlying infrastructure that needs to be put into place beforehand, like the building of new retention ponds and land grading. Therefore, that means that the only conceivable cost-cutting measures that could be enacted would affect the surface theming, such as pre-shows and exterior work. But the problem with that is that this 20% or so of construction is the part of the project that is the most accessible and noticeable to the guests, so cutting surface theming would only create a small saving, but would also hurt the attraction's perceived quality, so it makes it harder to justify cuts to these 2 attractions. Although I do anticipate a delay, as originally Tron was targeted for an opening in spring of 2021 and Guardians of the Galaxy was targeted for summer, so now I would expect Tron to open sometime within summer of 2021 and Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind to open in fall. But then also within this category is the new interactive Play Pavilion that is coming to the former Wonders of Life building, and despite this project being relatively smaller in terms of its budget compared to Guardians of the Galaxy or Tron, I would expect that it would be much easier for Disney to cut parts of this project and complete it without many realising which elements have been cut, as essentially this project is an elaborate meet and greet venue combined with an indoor dance and play area for small children. Then also we have the Roundup Rodeo Barbecue restaurant that's being constructed in Toy Story Land. And I wouldn't be surprised if this project isn't just postponed altogether from sometime in 2020 to late 2021, as it would be extremely easy for Disney to just replant the foliage in front of the construction and then return to the project to complete it at a later stage. But then we come to 2 big unknowns, and that's the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser and also Epcot's multi-year transformation. As to begin with, both of these projects are said to be strongly favoured by the new Disney CEO Bob Chapek, and so it would only be logical to think that they will make it to completion at some point. but most likely they will not be completed anywhere close to their original time frame, as the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser may have most of the exterior construction finished. However, the real expenditure on this project is the highly detailed theming and technology that is to be installed inside. Now, there are reports that this project in particular is going to be defunded, so that Disney can reallocate the funds to other projects such as Tron and Guardians of the Galaxy, as the big issue surrounding this project relates to the macroeconomic factors that will be caused from the fallout of COVID-19. As if there is to be expected an economic downturn, then the market demand probably wouldn't be there for a high-end 2-day, 2-night immersive experience, especially if the resort was relying on medium-income earners to fulfill most of its capacity and help it operate at a profit. So most likely we'll see this project pushed back from a slated 2021 opening to maybe 2022 or 2023, depending on the economic recovery. Then we come to the difficult dilemma of Epcot's transformation that has created a chaotic construction zone right in the middle of the park. As with Innoventions West demolition only just beginning in November of 2019, Disney has only removed half of the existing building. So here lies one of the most challenging decisions, as either way Disney will be required to spend a varying amount of capital expenditure to return Future World to a functioning area whilst Disney recovers. So the way I see it is that there are two options. The first being to tear down the remainder of the building, resurface the area, and add small prefabricated temporary locations, along with some landscaping which could still see the Moana Journey of Walkthrough experience come to this area, which would mean that they could return to build the new festival centre at a later stage. Then the second option would be to spend the money to rebuild the quadrant of Innoventions West that has been removed and convert that building into the festival centre instead. But to be honest, despite the Innoventions building's potential to become a great flexible space with slight modifications, much like what we're going to see with the new mouse gear, I still think that Disney will probably end up demoing the building and repaving the area temporarily, as it's the quickest and least expensive option. And then also at Epcot, the entrance plaza construction will most likely be completed without disruption, as it's only mainly landscaping, although I wouldn't hold out much hope for the Spaceship Earth revamp project, as considering that the attraction was still yet to close for refurbishment before the temporary closure period, the fact that no work has been done to the attraction so far makes for an extremely easy decision by Disney to potentially defund this project and then delay it by another year or so. And then we come to projects that are in the site preparation stage, with the only one at the moment being the new Disney Vacation Club resort Reflections at Lakeside Lodge. That is to be built just off Bay Lake, located where the former River Country water park used to be. However, as we can see from these aerial images, thanks to BioReconstruct, only land grading has been completed on this project so far, with the more essential new Circle D ranch being completed already. So the current stage of this construction project makes it a prime target for an easy cost-saving measure, as hotels and standalone DVC properties are extremely expensive to build. And if you combine that with the fact that Disney has just opened another DVC resort with a Riviera resort in December, then I think it's safe to say that this project will most likely be indefinitely postponed, similar to what happened with the legendary years at Pop Century that eventually became Art of Animation 9 years later. And then lastly we come to a project that was announced at D23 Expo last year, and that is the Mary Poppins attraction that was going to feature a cherry tree lane built within the UK Pavilion at Epcot. And quite simply, considering that this project is still in the developmental stages, I think it's safe to say that unfortunately this project will most likely be cut or shelved for a much later date. So in conclusion to this topic, just because the existing schedule for development and construction has been delayed substantially because of COVID-19 and the economic effects, it doesn't mean that we won't eventually at some point see these projects come to life. However, for the time being, when Walt Disney World does reopen, I am certainly going to be extremely thankful that we saw such a prolific time for new attractions at the parks in the past few years. But now, it's over to you, Walt, and as I would like to know all of your thoughts and opinions regarding today's topic. And also, if you were Disney, which projects would you cancel, greatly modify, or push back substantially? And also, if you could pick one project to salvage, then how would you modify it so therefore it could be adapted to the new economic constraints? And don't forget to put the timestamp for where the hidden Mickey appeared somewhere in today's video, along with your suggestion or your comment, to be in with a chance to win one of these official DSNY Newscast enamel pins. And congratulations to this Walter here for winning this suggestion from the previous video, where we're talking all about the demolition of Stitch's Great Escape. And so that's that's it for today. So be sure to go ahead and subscribe down below if you're new to this channel. Hit that notification icon and select all, so therefore you always receive a notification whenever I release a new video. And also, if you can give this video a massive thumbs up, it really does help this channel out. And I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.